All right, so stage two of the Siege North American League just started. The first play day just wrapped up earlier today, and now we're gonna talk about kind of the overview of the league, and we're gonna have a little extra to talk about because now that I've seen a play day, I want to talk about it, of course. Um, but yeah, again, sorry a little late to the uploads. School caught up to me fast. It started before I knew it, so but now I am done my classes for the week. No classes on Friday this term, so I'm hyped for that. Um, but the other 4 days are kind of cramped. So yeah. Anyways, let's get to the teams now. Last stage, NV got last place. Um, Before going into the stage last stage, they said they were going to stick with their roster for the whole year. They made a roster change. They have dropped Twists and brought in Aiden Tax, and they just played their first game, which was the last game of the day against Cruelty, and Cruelty got shit on. And it's hard to say because like everybody knows Cruelty suck, but it's like are MV better? I definitely think they look good. They look good too. Like 7-0 is still hard because like that means like either your enemy's got to be opponents your opponent has to be playing terrible, and you also have to be playing like at least decently well as well. So yeah, Aiden had a good debut today, and of course didn't play like a stellar team or anything, but it's a good start for Envy today. A good win if you're a fan of Jinxie verse stomping. I'm sure everybody knows who Aiden is if you watch any Jinxie streams or console tourneys in the past year. So I think everybody knows that those players that came off the M80X roster are also like pretty talented players. And this is the second one now to come up to Pro League. Um, Franklin next, please. Um, though I don't know which teams are currently really looking for IGL, but I definitely think like a fresh IGL could really help, especially now that Franklin's mechanics are definitely better. I remember watching Element 5, and he definitely looked better than he did in Challenger League. So, yeah, I think good start for Envy, terrible start for Cruelty, who we are getting to next. Cruelty also a really bad stage last stage. They got ninth. They only got ninth because they kind of really had a fluke win against M80. And I don't really want to say it was a fluke, to be honest. I'm gonna take that back. I want to say it was a fluke. It was the one game where Cruelty actually looked like a team, because the rest of the games in stage one, they just looked like ranked like idiots. Like they were just running around like clueless, and that's what they did today against Envy. Running around clueless, didn't really look like they knew what they were doing at all. Like 90% of the time. Um, and yeah, that's the only reason why they got ninth last stage is like they like somehow figured out how to play for like one game, and like I know they can do it because they've shown that like flashes of it, but they just like if they cared as much as they did about Pro League as they did about Ranked, they'd be a good team, but they're not. So, but yeah, anyways, they made run roster changes to stage two. They brought in Caden T in place of Ivan, another Mexican player, um, another rank star. Really, I don't really get much from him from that first game. He didn't play very good. Even really, the whole team didn't play good. So, yeah, not zero expectations for Cruelty this stage. Again, if they do better than ninth, 10th, it's a miracle in my opinion. So next we have Standby LFO. This is the same Orklist roster from last stage. They added Phenomene as an analyst who was a coach with Oxygen last stage. But besides that, they made no player changes. Um, and after the first play, they definitely looked improved. They still lost, but they put up a pretty good fight against SSG. Um, and they honestly look like they had a chance to win or at least go to overtime at some point, but SSG were just kind of locked in at near the end of the game and kind of clutched up really that last round, that round 12. LFO were kind of in a decent spot, and then in the last like minute 30 seconds, then the round got kind of crazy. And so she ended up coming up top 7-5. So again, this is kind of a roster that is kind of in the realm of envy, where it's like players that are good, but like it needs time to cook still. And that time they got from last stage, they definitely look better already. So let's see if they can keep it up. Um, but yeah, they lost their first match. So next we have Cloud9. Now Cloud9 are definitely going to be interesting this stage, because that first game they played today, they should have won. They had Dark Zero down. They were winning it. Well, they were winning against Dark Zero 6-4. Dark Zero didn't look like they were playing that great, and then they choked and Dark Zero won in overtime. Cloud9 also have added Hat this stage in place of Packer, and I believe Dream is now IGLing the team. So they definitely look better than they did last stage, because Dark Zero are a very hard team to beat, and Dark Zero only lost to one team in the regular stage of NA last season, which was Shopify. So yeah, definitely look better, but still going to need to see more from them, because if they can't close out games like they did today, it's going to be a problem for them. Like I definitely think Cloud9 in theory should be able to still beat the bad teams, like your Cruelties, and they'll probably still expect them to beat like Envy and LFO, but the other teams still is like, can they beat them? Who knows? They definitely can compete with them, but who knows if they can really beat them. So that's kind of like the storyline of Cloud9, is they can compete, but can they win? So next we have M80. They got 6th last stage. Not impressive from them. They start off today with a win, which was good. Against Oxygen, a pretty good win. Though I wasn't really feeling how they played, because it felt like they didn't really change a lot from last stage, or just like generally in rounds. They did very similar things a lot. Really, the last round of the game was one of the best adaptations. Really, is where they went for the spawn peak off of Oxygen's, because Oxygen like to go for like the early entries into the map, so the spawn peak's really good against that, of course. So that was nice, but M80 was doing like a lot of ratting in that game, especially on the defense, and I don't know if something like that's going to work against the other teams that are better at their mid-round droning, particularly mid to late round droning. So definitely a team with high expectations, though, with Fabian at the helm and the talented roster they have. So I expect them to be in the top 4. And if they're not, it's really just going to be a disappointing year overall for this team, because if they don't go to the majors this stage, their SI chances outside of the last chance qualifier are like basically cooked. So yeah, definitely need to have a better stage for M80 this stage. Next we have Wildcard. They were 5th last stage. Wildcard have made 0 changes, though technically when we were talking about them before stage 1 in May, they hadn't officially announced Lagonas as their new head coach, though he was on the head coaching staff for the entirety of stage 1 last year. So I've technically added Lagonas onto their roster here, but he has been on their roster since stage 1, so it's not really a new addition. He has been coaching them for a few months at this point. So they definitely look solid today. They put up a good fight against Shopify. It still wasn't enough, though. Shopify ended up winning in overtime. But they definitely look better than they did last stage, because they looked a little rough last stage after their really good run at Reload. They kind of had a downhill drive at the start of last stage and couldn't really recover from it. So next we have Oxygen. They got fourth last stage. I think Oxygen are pretty good. Um, they have no changes except for, I forgot to do it here, but Keezy is now their head coach, and they just let go of Phenamine. And Redeemer is not here anymore under the coaching staff because I think he's a manager, so I don't really think he really helps much with like the siege side of things anymore. He's just more of like a team manager now, but I don't really know. But again, Oxygen are really a team, I think, though, that heavily relies on Forrest as well to be playing like at a high level on his key operators, such as like the shields and the intel on the defense. So, and he was pretty good at that today, but it wasn't enough versus M80. So, anyways, we go to Shopify Rebellion. They got third last stage after having a flawless regular group stage. They lost a couple playoff games, but they still made like the event and everything. No changes here. Again, really expectations for Shopify really are just to make the major and do well at the major, and well, not even do well at the major. Their expectations are make the major and win the major. And that's really the expectations that like four teams have, which is M80, Shopify, DZ, and SSG. I have those same expectations for all four of those teams. So, and Wildcard are like getting up there, but they're not there yet. But yeah, definitely just looking to build on the solid success from last stage, but definitely need to be better because they really choked away that first place. So now we have DZ, a team that looked shaky today. Cloud9 have not had them on the ropes, I'm not gonna lie, but Dark Zero, the experience in the clutch really showed, and they pulled through. And Cloud9's mental they kind of just lost it after that game went to overtime. So Dark Zero were able to win today. And again here, no roster changes. Just same with Shopify, a team looking to qualify to the major and potentially win the major. So yeah, and now we have SSG. They got first last NAL stage, really against all odds because everyone was like, DZ or Shopify. Though I mean, I still had SSG in my like potentially could get first, and like SSG are always in my top four in NA. They're like a lock. But yeah, really impressive stage last stage because really everyone was really doubting them to get that first place, but they ended up doing it over the two teams that everybody thought would do it. And they made top four EWC as well. They got eliminated by Fira in that event. So SSG are definitely looking like one of the strongest teams in the world again. And just like M80, DZ, and Shopify, they're looking to qualify to the major and potentially win it. So, and the stakes for the NA this stage is the top four are going to the major, and the top four, of course, get the most money, and SI points are dispersed among the top 5 teams in the region this stage. So, yeah, that will be NA for this stage. Nothing huge and crazy. Not many roster changes. The biggest change really was Aiden going to Envy, and that was pretty much it. Pretty similar expectations as the last stage for the teams as well. Like, kind of expect certain teams to do certain things. So if you really watch my stage 1 video, I have kind of basically the same expectations as I did last stage. Though I think some of the more middling teams I think will be more competitive this stage. That is my biggest takeaway here. I think teams like Cloud9, LFO, and Envy are more likely to steal games or give some of the more top echelon teams a harder time at least to get those wins compared to, kind of getting smoked last stage. So, yeah, that's it for NA. Next, we're going to do South America because that starts this weekend. And then last will be EU, which starts on Monday. So, yeah, if you got all the way to the end, thanks for watching and have a good one.